We are in the death pangs of the Republican Party. That's what I want to say. We are at a pivotal point where conservatives are being revealed for what they have always been. You have to understand, circa 1974, after the election of 1976, after the election of Jimmy Carter, Republicans realized that they were undone, that they really had no constituency that can keep them in power. And what they did in 1976 was to pull in the evangelical vote. And because they pulled in the evangelical vote, they had to incorporate all of their social warfare, all of their moral majority language, all of their religious zealotry. All of that was incorporated into the party because they needed that to get political power, and it gave them political power in 1980 with Ronald Reagan. That was the second phase. If you go back to Richard Nixon and you go back to Goldwater, you would realize that the Republican Party, conservatism could not win. Conservatism could not win, not on its own merits. And so what did they do? Richard Nixon start playing directly to the Southern strategy, start playing directly to the racist, xenophobe, the bigoted gene that is latent in America. And it's not just the Southern strategy, mind you. And let me go tangentially here. The Southern strategy is not about the South. The Southern strategy is about anyone in America, because I found a lot of them in Boston, who hates minorities or who has animosity towards minorities. So I'm not going to lay this all at the South, because there's plenty here in Massachusetts, right? But they went with the Southern strategy with dog whistles, and they started communicating and started saying little subtle things like the welfare queen of Ronald Reagan, the things that would make them get off and make them look at look down on minorities. And that's how they galvanized an entire vote around bigotry. But that wasn't enough. 1976, they went ahead and galvanized the vote. 1980, around religious zealotry. Here's the magic of conservatism, of not conservatism, of the Republican establishment. For 30 years, since Ronald Reagan, and I would say around 40 years since Richard Nixon, they have been able to keep those ideologies and those crazy people at bay. They were able to get their vote and not do anything for them. They would be able to get their vote, and with the rhetoric alone, but with no performance, right? Ronald Reagan was able to get the evangelical vote, but then to turn around and appointed a justice who was pro-choice, right? And George H.W. Bush was able to get the evangelical vote, but turn around and invite gay rights activists to the White House for the first time in history. So for 40 plus years, they have been able to get the vote of the Southern strategy bigots and the religious evangelical zealots. And now their chickens have come home to roost. They are not able to keep those people quiet anymore, because you have been taken from them for the last 30, 40 years. And now it's time to pay the piper. And now you found a candidate who has mixed, who can just come to the front, and because of his popularity has no reason whatsoever to push those bigoted people who have always been there. He has no need to push them to the background because of how many there are and how much they love what he's saying. And then, of course, you have Ben Carson, who, the religious zealot that he is galvanizing the evangelical vote. This is the undoing of the Republican Party. The Republican Party is absolutely going to, one of two things: either they are going to die out and something else will be formed, or they are going to find a way to co-opt those two groups yet again and try to keep them inside of the Republican Party.